Grade 11 presents to you the Big Bang Theory. So, what is the Big Bang Theory? Scientists believe that the Big Bang was the very beginning of the creation of this universe. We will be diving into this topic in our video. These are the topics that we would be covering, so sit back and enjoy.
Our project topic is origin of universe. Let me brief about it. If all the galaxies are moving away from Earth, does that mean Earth is at the center of the universe? Let me explain. Imagine the universe as a cake full of raisins sitting in an oven. As the cake is baked and rises, it expands. The raisins inside begin to spread apart from each other. If you could select one raisin from which to look at the others, you notice they were all moving away from a special raisin. It wouldn't matter which raisin you pick because all the raisins are getting farther apart from each other as the cake expands. That's how it is with the universe, says Big Bang theorist.
The evidence that confirms the Big Bang theory are redshift, cosmic microwave background radiation, abundance of different elements in the universe. Redshift, light travels to Earth from other galaxies. As the light gets closer to the Earth, the distance between galaxy and Earth increases and causes long wavelengths which are red in color. Cosmic microwave radiation, it is a light made of residual heat of creation that is after the glow of Big Bang. Abundance of light elements, nucleosynthesis, that is the production of light elements took place after Big Bang. Hence our universe has abundance of light elements such as helium and lithium and deuterium.
And today I'll be talking about an alternate theory to the Big Bang theory, which is called the steady state theory, which was put forth by Fred Hoyle, Thomas Gold and H. Bondy. It is largely a philosophical theory and is not based on scientific premises, and it proposes an eternal universe instead of one created over a period of time. It is largely based off of the cosmological principle, which states that the universe is smooth or homogeneous, and also that it appears the same to an observer at any place in the universe, which also means that it's isotropic in nature.
Big Bang theory explains everything? No, the universe is clumpy. The hierarchies of the clumps where it comes from cannot be explained by the Big Bang theory. So this is called as the structural problem. The most distinct region of the universe are almost the same temperature, but this also could not be explained by the Big Bang theory. So this problem is called as horizon problem. As far we know, the geometry of the universe is flat, but the Big Bang theory explains that it is non-flatness. So this problem is called as the flatness problem. So we finally conclude that the Big Bang theory cannot explain everything.
Discovery of our galaxy. Our galaxy is made up of a huge collection of dust, gas and billions of stars. Galileo Galilei discovered our galaxy in 1610 and concluded that the galaxy is made up of countless number of stars. In 1755, Immanuel Kant proposed that the galaxy is made up of large collection of stars held together by mutual gravity. William Herschel in 1785 didn't realize that gas and dust hide galaxy's true shape. Evelyn Hubble in 1920 concluded that the Spiral Nebula was a whole other galaxy. This helped astronomers to understand nature and shape of our galaxy.
I'm going to be talking about the heliocentric model. It is the idea that the sun is at the center and earth revolves around it. It was first proposed by Aristarchus and he concluded that the earth revolves around the sun. His theory attracted little attention because it contradicted the geocentric theory of Aristotle. Over 2000 years later, Copernicus set down his own heliocentric model, which was brought out under the title De Revolutionibus Orbium Says It.
We all know the universe began with the Big Bang. But have you ever wondered what happened right after the Big Bang? The universe was born 13.7 billion years ago. The universe is quite big and has got literally everything from the large to the small. When the universe was just 10 to the 1 minus 32 years old, it experienced an incredible burst, now known as the inflation, where space began to expand faster than the speed of light. During this event, the universe doubled in size almost 90 times.
Just 1 second after the Big Bang, the universe was filled with numerous subatomic particles like neutrons, protons, electrons, photons, and neutrinos. However, at the point, the universe was plugged into darkness, meaning no stars or other
first 3 minutes of the universe are when particles and light elements such as hydrogen and helium formed. After this, no further elements were created for millions of years. During these 3 minutes, the universe was entirely composed of hydrogen, helium, and energy. The very oldest stars known have the following proportion of elements. They were composed of almost 75% hydrogen, 25% helium, and 0.01% of heavier elements. The first 3 minutes of the Big Bang are very important, as even though this is a very short period of time, it was the period where all the hydrogen and most of the helium in existence today was formed.
At an age of 3 minutes, the temperature of the universe was at 1 billion degrees Kelvin. At this temperature, the average photon energy is 1.5 into 10 to the power 14 joules. If a photon with this energy strikes a helium nucleus, the helium nucleus breaks apart. Once the temperature of the universe drops below 1 billion degrees Kelvin, the photons of the cosmic background are no longer energetic enough to blast deuterium apart. So then, fusion proceeds. Helium is formed by the fusion of deuterium, protons, and neutrons. The simplest way to form helium nuclei is to fuse a pair of deuterium nuclei together. Hydrogen and helium are the two basic materials which are found in abundance in the universe, and they are the materials from which the first stars and galaxies began to form.
Eventually, clouds of hydrogen and helium collected and contracted into the stars under the force of gravity. In the course of these stars, nuclear fusion began, and hydrogen fused into more helium, helium fused into carbon, and various other elements up to iron. The smaller stars, this is where it stopped. However, some of the most massive stars underwent enormous supernova explosions. In the supernova, conditions were right to form even heavier elements, all the way up to uranium. Every atom in your body can be traced back, in theory, to the Big Bang. The nitrogen and oxygen you breathe, the carbon your body is composed of, all came from an ancient star. And the heavier elements, of which there are traces in your body, formed in the fiery furnaces of supernovas.
I am Arvind and I am going to talk about the age of science and evolution. Access to information and knowledge at the click of button is a veritable boon to everyone, especially students, and this has made our life much simpler. On the other hand, it has severely limited actual content. Most every modern invention has one or more fundamental discoveries that make it possible. Sometimes these fundamental discoveries are hundreds of years old. Neither jet planes or rockets would be possible without knowledge of Newton's laws of motion. Advances in science and technology drive the evolution of us today. As we are humans, we evolve due to technology that has constantly been making change in our lives. Scientific operation and increasing business requirement determine what observation to make, how the information should be analyzed, and what products to create is the first point. Rapid technology change, intense competition, creation of new markets are expected to continue or even increase in the coming decades. These were the points of age and science and technology impacting on us.
Hello everyone, I am Alia from class 11C, and our second topic for the day is biographies on scientists who have contributed to the Big Bang Theory. Scientists are important for the world because they help us understand the way the world works in specific ways. Human beings have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to stay alive and happy, and science has been a powerful tool for staying alive and happy. Some physicists think that time didn't begin with the Big Bang but somehow emerged when the universe reached a certain level of complexity. Others theorize that the universe runs in cycles, in a possibly endless series of expansions and contractions. If this cyclic model is right, the Big Bang wasn't the beginning but just a transition from another era. Another possibility is that our universe is just one of the countless bubble universes that pop up repeatedly in a multiverse. These are just some of the few theories that have been put together by some scientists, but there are actually many other explanations by many other scientists for how and why the world works in this way. Today we are going to be discussing a very important scientist, George Lemaitre. He was born in Belgium and was fascinated by physics. He studied Einstein's law of gravitation. He deduced that if Einstein's theory were true, then it meant that the universe was expanding. In 1927, Lemaitre proposed his theory in which he stated that the universe was expanding in all directions. The same laws applied, the composition was also the same, but it was not static. He had no data to prove this, so no scientist believed him. In 1929, Lemaitre used Edwin Hubble's dramatic discovery as evidence for his theory. It was easy. If you imagine the galaxies rushing away from us in a movie, just run the movie backwards. After a certain time, all those galaxies will rush together. Lemaitre put forth this idea. Everyone supported his idea of entropy, which states that everything is moving towards greater and greater disorder. Others took notice of this theory and named it the Big Bang. Lemaitre's ideas opened up more questions, many of which forced physicists and astronomy to come together.
Hi everyone, I'm Ritvik Ranjit of grade 11C and I'm going to speak about the contributions made by the scientist Howard Robertson towards the Big Bang Theory. So Howard Robertson was born on January 27, 1903 and died in August 26, 1961, was an American mathematician and physicist who was known for his contributions to the mathematics of quantum mechanics, general relativity and differential geometry. Applying relativity to cosmology, he independently developed the concept of an expanding universe. Robertson's contributions have made a significant impact to the studies on Big Bang. There have been various websites and articles along with books about Robertson, his theories and studies as well.
Good morning. We'll be laying out a comprehensive timeline of the universe theory according to the Big Bang theory. It all started with the Big Bang, which is a moment in time, not a point in space. Sean Carroll, a theoretical physicist of California Institute of Technology, told Life Science. Specifically, it's a moment when time itself began, the instant from which subsequent incidents have been counted. This incident took place 13.8 billion years ago. Despite its moniker, the Big Bang wasn't really an explosion, but rather a period when the universe was extremely hot and dense and space began to expand outward in all directions. The model describes how the universe expanded from an initial state of high density and temperature and offers a comprehensive explanation for a broad range of observed phenomena, including abundance of light, elements, the cosmic microwave background radiation, large-scale structures, etc. There are many theories on what existed before the Big Bang. The most famous one is that the universe started out as an initial singularity and Big Bang led to its expansion. This was proposed by George Lemaitre, a Belgian cosmologist in 1927. The other theory states that it started with a Big Bang and ends with a Big Crunch. According to this, time is a flat circle. The Big Crunch is when all galaxies collide together to form a sphere of energy and radiation. Cosmic radiation era. The universe's next streak was to grow really big, really fast. Within the first 1 to 10 to the power minus 31 seconds after the Big Bang, the cosmos could have expanded in exponentially in size, drifting apart areas of the universe which were previously in close contact. The era known as the inflation remains hypothetical, but the cosmologists like the idea because it explains the far-flung regions of space appear to be similar to one another, despite being separated by vast distances. Back in 2014, a team thought they had found
the first atoms. When the universe was still very young, only a few kinds of atoms existed. For the first 3 minutes of the universe's life, protons and neutrons fused together, forming an isotope of hydrogen called deuterium, as well as helium and a tiny amount of the next lightest element, lithium. But once the temperature fell, this process stopped. Finally, 3,80,000 years after the Big Bang, things were cool enough so that hydrogen and helium could combine with free electrons, creating the first neutral atom, photons, which had previously run into the electrons. Could now move without interference, creating the cosmic microwave background, CMB, a relic form of this era that was first detected in 1965. Scientists believe that around 1 lakh years after the Big Bang, helium and hydrogen combined to make the first molecule called helium hydride for the first time. The Dark Ages. In the Big Bang cosmology, shortly after the blazing bright Big Bang itself, there came a time when the universe was utterly dark. For a very long time, nothing in the universe gave off light. This period, which lasted for around 100 million years, is known as the Cosmic Dark Ages. This epoch remains extremely difficult to study because astronomers' knowledge of the universe comes almost
Large-scale structures. One of the greatest challenges of modern astrophysics is understanding how various structures such as galaxies and galaxy clusters form within the framework of the Big Bang cosmology. The current theory of structure formation, the extension of the Big Bang model called the cold dark matter CDM scenario, predicts that massive galaxies and galaxy clusters will build from smaller galaxies that collided and merged, inducing the bursts of star formation and resulting in different types of structure observed today. A black hole is a region of space-time where gravity is so strong that nothing, no particle or even electromagnetic radiation such as light can escape from it. A quasar is an extremely luminous active galactic nucleus in which a supermassive black hole with mass ranging from millions to 10 of billions of times the mass of the Sun is surrounded by a gaseous accretion disk. The universe is the oldest known quasar, discovered 13 billion light years away. The universe's middle years. The universe continued to evolve over the next several billion years. Spots of higher density from the primordial universe gravitationally attracted matter to themselves. These slowly grew into galactic clusters and long strands of gas and dust, producing a beautiful filamentary cosmic web that can be seen today. And then the birth of the solar system. About 4.5 billion years ago, in one particular galaxy, a cloud of gas collapsed down into yellow stars with a system of rings around it. These rings coalesced into 8 planets, plus various comets, asteroids, dwarf planets, and moons, forming a familiar stellar system. The planet third from the central star managed to either retain a ton of water after this process, or its comets later delivered a deluge of ice and water. The Milky Way is the galaxy that included our solar system with the name describing the galaxy's appearance from Earth, a hazy band of light being in the night sky formed from stars that cannot be individually distinguished by the naked eye.
Religious cosmology is an explanation of creation, evolution, and destruction of the universe in religious terms and made different for each religion. The universe of the ancient Israelites was made up of a flat disc-shaped earth floating on water, heaven above and underworld below. Then Jews began to adopt to the Greek idea that it would be a place of punishment for misdeeds and the righteous would enjoy the afterlife in heaven. The belief that God created matter is called creatio ex nihilo. It is the accepted orthodoxy of most denominations of Judaism and Christianity. Most denominations of Christianity and Judaism believe that a single uncreated God was responsible for the creation of the cosmos. Islam teaches that God created the universe, including the Earth's physical, environmental, and human beings. The highest goal is to visualize the cosmos as a book of symbols for meditation and contemplation for spiritual upliftment, or as a prison from which the human souls must escape to attain true freedom and spiritual journey to God. The Hindu cosmology, like the Buddhist and Jain cosmology, considers all existence as cyclic. With its ancient roots, Hindu's texts propose and discuss numerous cosmological theories. Hindu culture accepts this diversity in cosmological ideas and has lacked a single mandatory viewpoint, even in its oldest Vedic scripture, the Rig Veda. In early Buddhist tradition, samsara cosmology consists of 5 realms through which we of existence recycled. This includes hell, niraya, hungry ghosts, pretas, animals, Tiryak, humans, Manushya, and gods, devas, heavenly.
I'm Harni from class 11B and I'm here to talk about the Andromeda Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy, also known as the M31 Galaxy, is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way, and it's one of the very few galaxies that can be seen through the naked eye from the Earth. So it is about 2.5 million light years far away from the Earth, and it has a diameter of 4.5 billion light years. So you can imagine how large it is. It has over 1 trillion stars and one massive black hole that is hidden right at the core.
Hi everybody, I'm Ritika SK from class 11B, and today I'm going to be talking about black holes.
Not the ones in Milky Way, but the ones in Andromeda. Yes. So let me begin by talking about what exactly a black hole is. So as you can see here, the model of a black hole that I have made. A black hole is an astronomical object that has very high gravitational pull that no object can escape it whatsoever, including light. That is why it doesn't emit any light and remains completely dark. Now, let me show you how exactly a black hole works. So as you can see here, when an object is attracted by a black hole, it follows continuous circular motion and releases energy continuously. Once it loses energy completely, it falls into the black hole. Let us move on to the black holes that are found in Andromeda. Astronomers have discovered 26 new black holes in Andromeda, which has the largest number of black holes so far. These 26 new ones, along with the previously known 9 black holes, form 35 black holes in total in Andromeda. Most of the new ones have 5 to 10 times the mass of Sun, out of which 7 of the newly found black holes are nearly 1000 light years away from the center. The black hole that is present at the center of the Andromeda is called the M central black hole or quiescent because it does not show up in any radios or X-rays as source of active energy.
So hi all, this is Lakshmi and I'll be talking about Andromeda constellation. A constellation is basically a formation of a particular pattern by a group of stars. The pattern formed by the Andromeda constellation is a Greek princess being held captive. So basically it's a Greek mythological figure. As you can see in the model, it's made up of 16 stars in total. One of the most unique feature about this constellation is that one of the stars constituting it, known as the Alpheus star, is one of the most brightest stars in the entire Andromeda galaxy. It is so bright that even now people use it as a source to locate the position of the Andromeda galaxy in the sky.
Good morning everyone, I'll be talking about the Andromeda Halo. What is the Andromeda Halo? In the landmark study, scientists with the help of the NASA's Hubble Space Telescope have discovered the immense envelope of gas called the halo surrounding the Andromeda galaxy, the galaxy nearest to our Milky Way. The Andromeda galaxy is estimated to contain half of the mass of the stars in Andromeda galaxy itself, in the form of a hot, diffused gas. If the Andromeda halo could be viewed with our naked eye, its diameter would be 100 times the moon in the sky.
Hello everybody, this is Umehani of class 11C and today I'm going to speak about Andromeda and Milky Way collision. Fun fact, the Andromeda and Milky Way collision is a galactic collision predicted to occur in about 4.5 billion years between the two largest galaxies in the local group, the Milky Way, which contains the solar system and the Earth, and the Andromeda galaxy. The result of the collision between Andromeda and the Milky Way will be a new larger galaxy. So here's a picture of the Andromeda and Milky Way colliding.
Hello, I'm Sahini Kusana of class 11C and the model that you are about to see is about celestial bodies and its various sizes. A celestial body is defined as any natural body outside of the Earth's atmosphere. A few examples include the Moon, Sun and other planets of the solar system. Generally, celestial bodies are classified into 7 types: stars, planets, satellites, comets, asteroids, meteors, meteorites, and galaxies. A star is a form of a celestial object made up of a shining spheroid of plasma held together by its own gravity. A planet is a body that revolves around a star that is enormous enough to be spherical by its own magnitude. A satellite is a natural celestial object with a recognized orbit around a planet of the solar system. Satellites can also be man-made. A comet is an icy object which is present in the solar system, which when traveling close to the sun warms and starts to emit gases. Asteroids are small planets, especially of the inner solar system. Big asteroids are called planetoids. Meteorite is a small piece of debris from an object such as comet, asteroid, or a meteoroid that originates in outer space. A meteor is called a shooting star whose path is visible. A galaxy is a gravitational system of stars, interstellar gas, stellar fragments, dust, and dark matter. My friends Shraddha, Manasa, Divya, Nitishri, Vinashna, and Divyamsh will be giving you a more detailed explanation of the model we have made. Over to them. Thank you.
Ceres is the largest asteroid and TC25 is the smallest asteroid. Ceres is the largest asteroid in the main belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. It was discovered on 1801. It is also known as a dwarf planet. It takes around 4.6 Earth years to make a revolution around Sun. It was named after the Roman god of harvest, growing plants and motherly love. TC25 is the smallest known near-Earth asteroid. It is 6 foot wide and bald asteroid. It was discovered on 2015.
I'm going to be explaining about the smallest comet ever found on the whole universe. Comet Halley 2, designated as 103P/Halley by the Minor Planet Center, is a small periodic comet with an orbital period of 6.46 years. It was discovered by Malcolm Halley in 1986 and its diameter is estimated to be 1.2 to 1.6 kilometers. The mass of the comet is estimated to be about 300 megatons. Halley 2 contains half as much heavy water as other comets analyzed before, with the same ratio between heavy water and regular water as found in Earth's oceans. Observations of Halley 2 showed the importance of carbon monoxide ice to carbon dioxide ice in comets. Bernardinelli Bernstein is the largest comet ever found. It is a potentially large Oort cloud comet discovered by astronomers Pedro Bernardinelli and Gary Bernstein. Oort cloud is a collection of cosmic bodies made of massive amounts of dust. The object is 29 astronomical units, that is 4.3 billion kilometers from the Sun, and is 10 times larger than most comets and 1000 times as massive. Comet Bernardinelli Bernstein has an orbit that is perpendicular to the plane of our solar system, meaning it will reach its closest point to the Sun in 2031.
To talk about the largest galaxy in the universe, 1C1101. It is a supergiant elliptical galaxy at the center of the Abell 2029 galaxy cluster and is one of the largest known galaxies. It is about 1.04 billion light years away from the Earth. It is 50 times the Milky Way size and about 2000 times more massive. The radius of 1C1101 is 1.95 million light years. 2 is the smallest galaxy in the universe. It is a vast spherical galaxy situated in the constellation Aries. It was discovered in 2009. It is the most lightweight galaxy in the universe. This galaxy consists of around 1000 stars.
The smallest natural satellite is the Europa. Europa, or the Jupiter second, is the smallest of the 4 Galilean moons orbiting Jupiter. It is also the 6th largest moon in the solar system. Europa is primarily made of silicate rock and has water ice crust and probably an iron nickel core. It has a very thin atmosphere composed primarily of oxygen. The biggest natural satellite is Ganymede. Ganymede, a satellite of Jupiter, is the largest and most massive of the solar system's moons. The 9th largest object of the solar system, it is the largest without a substantial atmosphere. It has a diameter of 5,268 km, making it 26% larger than the planet Mercury by volume, although it is only 45% as massive.
I'm going to explain about the largest and the smallest star in the universe, Ui Scuti. Ui Scuti is a red supergiant star in the constellation of Scrotum and was earlier known as the largest star in the universe. It is considered one of the largest known stars by its radius. It lies approximately around 9,500 light years away. It is 304,000 times more luminous than the Sun. Ui Scuti can fit 5 billion suns inside it. EBLM J05557. It is a triple star system. It is approximately 600 light years away from Earth. It is the smallest star in the Milky Way galaxy.
Einstein is arguably one of the most influential scientists the 20th century had seen. His general theory of relativity went on to change our understanding of space and time, becoming one of the two pillars of modern physics, the other being quantum mechanics. Among physicists' most famous equation is A is equals to mc squared. mass has an equivalent amount of energy. Simply put, the equation explains that energy and mass are interchangeable, that is, they are different forms of the same thing.
Related to the theory itself, most of the people think that the famous equation in theory are the one of the most same things, one of the most and all the same thing. And rather than the equation is just one result of the theory of relativity, nothing more. The equation is such a famous result that it started serving as an emblem for theory itself. So there is so much more relativity in that. And how do you describe the relation between the equation and the theory? In short, this question was derived from a special relativity and conservation of momentum in a paper that was published just after the 1905 relativity paper. Therefore, the equation is the result of the theory. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll be explaining about the theory of relativity. The theory of relativity has been two theories that Einstein came up with in early 1990s. One is called as special relativity and another is called as general relativity. I'll be explaining about special relativity. The theory of relativity explains how space and time are linked for objects that are moving at consistent speed in a straight line. As an object approaches the speed of light, its mass becomes infinite and is unable to go any faster than light travels. After finishing his work in special relativity in 1905, Einstein spent a decade pondering what would happen if one introduced acceleration. This then formed a basis of his general relativity published in 1915. Next is general relativity. Essentially, this theory is a theory of gravity. The basic idea is that instead of being an invisible force that attacks objects to one another, gravity is a curving of space. The more massive an object, the more it wraps the space around it. For example, the sun is massive enough to wrap space across our solar system. As a result, yet and other planets are moving around in curved paths around it. This wrapping also affects measurements of time. Just as gravity can stretch space, it can also delay time. If a person climbs to the top of a mountain, his clock will be ticking faster compared to yours in the ground. Similarly, a person being at the bottom of the valley will have slow ticking clock. This is because of the difference in strength of gravity in each place.
With all that being said, how did the theory of relativity help in changing the world? Well, the ideas behind the theory does seem obscure. The theory in itself has made a huge impact in forming the world we know today. For example, nuclear power plants and nuclear weapons would not exist if we didn't have the knowledge that matter in fact can be turned into energy. Our GPS satellite network needs to account for the subtle effects of both special and general relativity, because if they did, they'd give results that were off by several miles. While all of these real-world applications are impressive, the most important result is how the theory changed the world, because it provided a new perspective and brought us one step closer to understanding how our world works.
The Large Hadron Collider was first started on 10 September 2008 in the Franco-Swiss border near Geneva, Switzerland, and remains the latest addition to CERN's accelerator complex. The LHC consists of a number of accelerating structures to boost the energy of particles. These subatomic particles, also called the hadron, are not usually found in nature but are produced at the LHC. They undergo a process known as decay, where one particle transforms into several less massive ones. Protons and neutrons are examples of a hadron. The LHC allows scientists to reproduce the conditions that existed within a billionth of a second after the Big Bang. This was the moment around 13.7 billion years ago when the universe is believed to have started with an explosion of energy and matter. During these first moments, all the particles and forces that shape our universe came into existence, defining what we see now. The Large Hadron Collider took a decade to build and cost around $4.75 billion. The LHC project involved 111 nations in designing, building, and testing equipment and software, and now continues with them participating in experiments and analyzing analyzing data.
I will be talking about the working of the LHC. The LHC is just one part of the 5 stages that happens in order to accelerate a proton to light speeds. The first stage is the LINAC 4 or linear accelerator. Proton synchrotron booster is the next stage, which is a curved accelerator of circumference 157 meters. The third stage is the proton synchrotron, an even bigger ring of circumference 628 meters. Then the protons go to an even bigger ring of circumference 7 kilometers. And finally the biggest ring, the LHC of circumference 27 kilometers. In the first stage, hydrogen gas is pumped into LINAC 4. Here, the electric field splits the electron off from the hydrogen and the protons are created, and the electric field also accelerates them to a velocity of 1/3 of speed of light.
Next, protons are split from the linear accelerator. They are split into 4 circular tubes, and this is the proton synchrotron booster of circumference 157 meters. The electric field here is pulsated, similar to pushing a child. You can see a child is pushed by his mother here at a particular frequency. The same happens here, a particular frequency at which they are pulsed. Also, there are magnets which push the protons towards the center so that the protons don't fly away. The protons here are extremely fast. 91.6% of the speed of light is the speed. Next is stage 3. Stage 2, protons go into stage 3. The same stuff happens here, but they reach 99.9% of the speed of light. And from stage 3, they go to stage 4. And the energy is massively boosted here. And finally, LHC of 27 kilometers. If we zoom into one part of the LHC, we'll see that there are 2 tubes, microtubes, which are both vacuumed. And you'll see that one set of protons go in one direction and the other go in another direction, and they are made to collide at a particular point, a big collision. It is to be noted that the speed of proton is extreme here, 11,000 revolutions each second around the LHC, and all the debris is then collected for analyzing.
I'll be taking you folks through the discoveries and achievements of the Large Hadron Collider. Over the last decade, the Large Hadron Collider experiments has resulted in a total of 59 new particles called hadrons. By far, the most significant discovery has been the Higgs boson, aka God particle, Higgs field. Higgs field is a field where massless particles get their mass. And to give an intuitive sense of this, let me just explain it to you guys. If all elementary particles were masses, our universe would have been different. Massless electrons would not be grabbed by a photon to form an hydrogen atom. If we had no hydrogen atom, we would have no stars, no galaxies, no life as we know it. After the Big Bang, all elementary particles were massless, but something happened in the medium which resulted in particles getting mass. And Higgs field and physicists proposed a theory to explain how particles got their mass, and Higgs field is the explanation. Higgs boson is an elementary particle in the standard model of particle physics produced by the quantum excitation of the Higgs field. In the standard model, the Higgs particle is a massive scalar boson. It has 0 spin, no electric charge, and no color charge. When massless particles travel through the Higgs field, they get slowed down by it. This is how the Higgs boson works. We can't see it, but can get an intuitive sense of how it gives particles substance. These 2 gentlemen here, Peter Higgs and Prakot Englert, won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2013. Peter Higgs from the United Kingdom, Francois Englert from Belgium. In the 1960s, they were among the several physicists who proposed a mechanism to explain why the basic building blocks of the universe have mass. The mechanism predicted a particle, the Higgs boson, which was finally discovered in 2012, the Large Hadron Collider.
Timeline of the Large Hadron Collider. At 10:28 am on 10th of September 2008, a beam of proton was successfully steered around the 27-kilometer Large Hadron Collider for the very first time. The machine was now ready to embark a new era of discovery at the higher energy frontier. 19th of September 2008 occurred a magnetic quench leading to a loss of approximately 6 tons of liquid helium. 38th September, the first modest high-energy collision had to be postponed due to the accident, and 16th of October, a preliminary analysis of the accident was passed. 21st of October, it was officially inaugurated, and 5th of December 2008, it released a detailed analysis of the accident that took place on 2008 19th September. This is a list of events that took place between 2012 to 2018. On 4th of July 2012 was a very important date. Why? Because of the Higgs boson postulate. It was one of the most important events in the timeline of CERN Large Hadron Collider. On 2018, it was shut down. From 2018 to 2021 was a long shutdown process where it was set to upgrade to implement the High Luminosity Large Hadron Collider project, which will increase the luminosity factor by 10. It is projected to end by 2021 but could have been postponed due to the pandemic.
In this video, we'll see what are quarks. A quark is a type of elementary particle and a fundamental constituent of a matter. Quarks combine to form composite particles called hadrons, the most stable of which are protons and neutrons, the components of atomic nuclei. In 1964, Murray Gell-Mann and George Zwick suggested that the most of the known particles at the time could be explained by the three fundamental particles, which are protons, neutrons, and electrons. These quarks needed to have a fractional number in order for the calculations to work. Quarks are the fundamental building blocks of all the particles. Electrons were fired at protons at the Stanford Linear Accelerator and found to bounce off of the tiny particles inside them, and this was the first evidence for the existence of the quarks. There were two basic quarks at the time, the up quark and the down quark. The up quark has a charge of plus 2/3 and the down quark has a charge of minus 1/3.
What is the difference between up and down quarks? They have different charges, mass and spin. The proton has a charge of plus 1 and is made up of 2 up quarks and 1 down quark. So how does a proton get its charge? One up quark having a charge of plus 2/3 combines with another up quark of charge plus 2/3 to give an overall charge of plus 4/3. Do this if you add a down quark of charge minus 2/3, the overall charge will be reduced to 3/3, which will be equal to 1. Similarly, a neutron has one up quark and two down quarks, giving it a charge of 0. Apart from up and down quarks, there are 4 other types of quarks which are called flavors. Strange quarks are called so because they were observed in particle decays having strangely long lifetimes. Charm quarks were given its name because it fascinated the physicists at that time, and the top and bottom quarks were counterparts of the up and down quarks.
In this video, we will be talking about particle accelerator. Particle accelerator is a machine that accelerates charged particles at a very high speed and transport them from one place to another through well-defined beams. How does particle accelerator work? Particle accelerator use electric fields to speed up and increase the energy of a beam of particles which are steered and focused by magnetic fields. The beam of particles travels inside a vacuum in the metal beam pipe. Electric fields spaced around the accelerator switch from positive to negative at a given frequency, creating radio waves that accelerate particles in bunches. Particles can be directed at a fixed target, such as a thin piece of metal foil, or two beams of particles can be collided. Contribution of particle accelerators to basic science. Particle accelerators have been an essential tool for the discovery of particles, subatomic particles, and for various science experiments that uses X-rays and neutrons. Facts say that there are now about 10,000 scientists in the United States using X-ray beams for research in development of many material science aspects. Here are some pictures about photons, gamma rays, and subatomic particles.
Spacecrafts COBE and WMAP, a study. The COBE and WMAP were NASA programs that were sent to space to provide evidence of the Big Bang. The mathematical underpinnings of the Big Bang theory include Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity along with standard theories of fundamental particles. Today, NASA spacecrafts such as the Hubble Space Telescope and the Spitzer Space Telescope continue measuring the expansion of the universe. One of the goals has long been to decide whether the universe will expand forever or whether it will someday stop, turn around, and collapse in a big crunch.
According to the theories of physics, if we were to look at the universe 1 second after the Big Bang, what we would see is a 10 billion degree sea of neutrons, protons, electrons, positrons, photons, and neutrinos. Then as time went on, we would see the universe cool. The neutrons either decaying into protons and electrons or combining with protons to make deuterium. As it continued to cool, it would eventually reach the temperature where electrons combined with nuclei to form neutral atoms. Before this recombination occurred, the universe would have been opaque because the free electrons would have caused light to scatter, the way sunlight scatters from the water droplets in clouds. But when the free electrons are absorbed to form neutral atoms, the universe suddenly becomes transparent. Those same photons, the afterglow of the Big Bang known as the cosmic background radiation, can be observed today. The Big Bang theory predicts that the early universe was a very hot place, and that as it expands, the gas within it cools. Thus, the universe should be filled with radiation, that is literally the remnant heat that is left over from the Big Bang, called the cosmic microwave background or CMB. The existence of the CMB radiation was first predicted by Ralph Alpern in 1948 in connection with his research on the Big Bang nucleosynthesis undertaken together with Robert Herman and George Gamow. However, it was only first observed in 1965 by Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson at the Bell Telephone Laboratories in Murray Hill, New Jersey.
Hello, this is Mahi, and I'm going to be talking about the Cosmic Background Explorer, also known as the COBE. The COBE satellite was developed by NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center to measure the diffused infrared and microwave radiation from the early universe. It was launched on November 18, 1989 and carried 3 instruments, namely a diffused infrared background experiment DIRBE to search for the cosmic infrared background radiation, a differential microwave radiometer DMR to map the cosmic radiation sensitively, and a far infrared absolute spectrophotometer FIRAS to compare the spectrum of the cosmic microwave background radiation with a precise blackbody. This is a 3D model made by us of the COBE spacecraft.
The Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe is a NASA Explorer mission that launched June 2001 to make fundamental measurements of cosmology, the study of the properties of the universe. WMAP has been stunningly successful, producing our new standard model of cosmology. WMAP's data stream has ended. The WMAP science team has determined to a high degree of accuracy and precision not only the age of the universe, but also the density of atoms, the density of all other non-atomic matter, the epoch when the first stars started to shine, the lumpiness of the universe, and how that lumpiness depends on scale size. In short, when used alone with no other measurements, WMAP observations have improved knowledge of these 6 numbers by a total factor of 68,000, thereby converting cosmology from a field of wild speculation to a precision science. WMAP's baby picture of the universe maps the afterglow of the hot young universe at a time when it was only 375,000 years old, when it was a tiny fraction of its current age of 13.77 billion years. The patterns in this baby picture were used to limit what could have possibly happened earlier and what happened in the billions of years since that early time. The misnamed Big Bang framework of cosmology, which posits that the young universe was hot and dense and has been expanding and cooling ever since, is now solidly supported according to WMAP. Remarkably, WMAP's precision measurement of the properties of the fluctuations has confirmed specific predictions of the simplest version of inflation. The fluctuations follow a bell curve with the same properties across the sky, and there are equal number of hot and cold spots on the map. WMAP also confirms the predictions that the amplitude of the variations in the density of the universe on big scales should be slightly larger than smaller scales, and that the universe should obey the rules of Euclidean geometry, so the sum of the interior angles of a triangle add to 180 degrees. WMAP launched on June 30th, 2001 and maneuvered to its observing station near the second Lagrange point of the Earth-Sun system, 1,000,000 miles from Earth in the direction opposite the Sun. From there, WMAP scanned the heavens, mapping out tiny temperature fluctuations across the full sky.
Hello everybody, I'm Arnav Kumar of class 11A, and I'm going to be talking about space telescopes. A space telescope or a space observatory is a telescope located in outer space to observe distant planets, galaxies, and other astronomical objects. Performing astronomy from ground-based observatories on Earth is limited by the filtering and distortion of electromagnetic radiation due to the atmosphere. Space telescopes have the advantage that they avoid the filtering of ultraviolet frequencies, X-rays and gamma rays, the distortion of electromagnetic radiation, as well as light pollution that ground-based telescopes encounter. Different space telescopes examine the universe through different ways. The Hubble Space Telescope primarily observes visible light and near ultraviolet. The Compton Gamma Ray Observatory primarily observed gamma rays. The Chandra X-ray Observatory primarily observes soft X-rays. The Spitzer Space Telescope observed the infrared spectrum. Thank you.
Hello, I am Bala Vignesh from class 11. Today I am going to explain redshift. Redshift is a light's version of a phenomenon we experience all the time with sound. This apparent change in pitch or frequency of sound is called Doppler shift. Light from distant stars and galaxies can be shifted in the same way.
Hello, I'm Nathaniel Paul of class 11C and I'm going to explain the Doppler shift. The Doppler shift or the Doppler effect describes the changes in frequency of any kind of sound or light wave produced by a moving source with respect to an observer. Waves emitted by an object traveling toward an observer get compressed, prompting a higher frequency as the source approaches the observer. In contrast, waves emitted by a source traveling away from an observer get stretched out. The source can be a star that emits electromagnetic waves. From our vantage point, Doppler shift occurs as the star orbits around its own center of mass and moves towards or away from the Earth. These wavelength shifts can be seen in the form of subtle changes in its spectrum, the rainbow of colors emitted in light. When a star moves towards us, its wavelengths get compressed and its spectrum becomes slightly bluer. When the star moves away from us, its spectrum looks slightly redder.
Is something which is known as finite but unbound. The balloon has a surface area which we can calculate. But if you start at a point and draw a line, you can never reach the edge of it. In the same way, our universe has a volume which we can calculate, but you can never reach the edge of it. If we consider the surface of the balloon to be our three-dimensional space, the red dots as galaxies, and the green lines as a coordinate system spread across the entire universe, we see that the galaxies are fixed within that coordinate system. We know that on local scales, galaxies interact through gravity and will move about, but on these large scales, they stay approximately fixed. If the universe expands just like the balloon, we see that although the galaxies, or red dots in this case, stay fixed in that coordinate system, the distance between them increases. Not only do 2 points increase, but every single point on that coordinate system increases with relation to every other. In this analogy, we have to remember that although the surface is 2D, we are actually thinking about 3D space. In this sense, in this analogy, the outside and the inside of the balloon have no real meaning. It's therefore easy to see that there is no centre to the universe. There is no one point where the Big Bang occurred. The Big Bang occurred.
Good morning. Today I am going to be talking about cosmic ray showers. Cosmic ray showers are subatomic particles that are moving at or close to speed of light. They are released by stars and other astronomical bodies and astronomical processes. Some processes through which cosmic ray shower occur are black hole, supernova, solar flare and stars. Cosmic ray showers occur because of the processes getting really high, getting into really high temperatures, and these high temperatures excite the atom and cause the subatomic particles, cause the atom to disintegrate into subatomic particles, and these particles gain really high velocities close to speed of light and are flung into this space. Earth defends against cosmic ray showers by having a layer of atmosphere called as magnetosphere, which stops most of the cosmic radiation, but some cosmic radiation that make it through the magnetosphere, like because of the high velocity, disintegrate atoms in the atmosphere into gamma radiation, electrons and other charged particles. Thank you.
Hello all, I'm Mehul here. Around 1912, Austrian physicist Victor Hess made a series of ascents in a balloon to take measurements of radiation in the atmosphere. He was looking for the source of an ionizing radiation that registered on an electroscope. The prevailing theory was that the radiation came from the rocks of the Earth, which technology is used in the detection of cosmic radio waves. The cosmic microwave background radiation was also first detected using radio telescopes. However, radio telescopes have also been used to investigate objects much closer to home. How do cosmic rays affect Earth? High energy radiation from space, known as galactic cosmic rays, can affect Earth's climate by increasing cloud cover and causing an umbrella effect. According to scientists, during the period, the Earth's magnet strength fell to less than 1/4 and galactic cosmic rays increased by over 50%. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. I am Shreya Verma from class 11 and I will be talking about the cosmic microwave background radiation that we can see from an old television set. So basically, the combination of the cosmic expansion and the light elements and the universe's large-scale structures and the cosmic microwave background all together combined to anoint the Big Bang. After many years of the Big Bang, during the mid-1960s, the cosmic microwave background was detected by a careful observer in the most unlikely places, and that is from an old television set. Now, the way a television works is quite simple. A powerful electromagnetic wave is transmitted by a tower where it can be received by a proper sized antenna oriented in the correct direction. This wave is accompanied by additional signals like the voice and the visual information. By receiving that information and translating it to a proper format, we were able to enjoy and receive broadcast programming right in the comfort of our own homes for the first time. Now, different channels broadcasted at different wavelengths. So this made it easier and simple for the viewers to change channels and have multiple options just by turning a dial, unless they turn dial to channel 03. The channel 3 from an old television set would simply show a signal that appears to us as static or the snow, as you can see from the model. This static or the snow that you can see from the television screen is a combination of all sorts of sources like the human-made radio transmissions, the sun, the black holes and the other astrophysical phenomena like your cosmic rays, etc. And according to sources, that 1% static signal that you can see from the television screen shows us the leftover glow from the Big Bang. So literally you are watching the cosmic microwave background. And this small amount of static cannot be gotten rid of. The reason being, the signal comes from the cosmic microwave background itself. So anyone from the 1940s onwards could have detected the cosmic microwave background just by sitting at home, proving the Big Bang theory decades before the scientists did. Thank you.
I'm going to explain about cosmic calendar. So what is cosmic calendar? Cosmic calendar is a scalar where 13.7 billion years of the lifespan of the universe, which is mapped into a year, which is 365 days. And also this image I am having a helps into cosmology which talks about this cosmic calendar, and on December, microorganisms have been found where jumps from bacteria to the microorganism, which is responsible for the life on the Earth. And on December 14, first animal came into existence, that is 670 million years ago. And after that, on December 17, the first glacier came into existence, that is 530 million years ago. And on December 20, land plants came into existence, where Earth had been filled with clean air, that is 450 million years ago. And after that, amphibians and reptiles took place. It populated on the Earth. And after that, mammals, but before mammals, dinosaurs came into existence, which is lived on the Earth, that is 230 million years ago. The cosmic calendar is only lived 5 days in the row. And after that, only mammals came into existence. After that, birds, flowers took place. And after that, on December 30, dinosaur existed and been occurred. That is 65 million years ago. A meteoroid have been hit on the Earth, where almost every species have been dead. And after that, only mammals lived on. And here on December 31st, we can see that on 6:12 a.m. first apes appeared. That is 28 million years ago. And after that, humans have been appeared, which is 9 p.m. And after that, history begins. These are the patterns we can see in the cosmic calendar.
We all have an idea about how the universe started, but have you ever wondered how the universe will end? Over the years, many scientists have produced different theories, and one of the popular ones is the Big Freeze. So, what is the Big Freeze? Also referred to by some as the Great Glaciation or Heat Death, the Big Freeze is a plausible scientific theory on the possible end of the universe. This ending is theorized to be the direct consequence of an ever-expanding universe, which is proven by indications of an increasing rate of expansion in the regions farthest from Earth. Because of this, it is also a widely accepted model about the ultimate fate of our universe. Who proposed this theory, and when did it all start?
The hypothesis of heat that stems from the idea of Lord Kelvin, who in 1850s took the theory of heat as mechanical energy loss in nature, as embodied in the first two laws of thermodynamics, and extrapolated it to larger process on a universal scale.
Stephen Hawking predicted that black holes slowly evaporate by releasing their particles into the universe. First, the smaller solar mass black holes will vanish, and by a Google year into the future, A followed by 100 zeros, Hawking's radiation will have killed off even the supermassive black holes.
Now comes the question, why does the universe expand, and who is the reason behind it? Well, it is the dark energy.
Dark energy is this mysterious force considered to be an invisible energy. Dark energy is a hypothetical form of energy that behaves exactly opposite to gravity. The discovery of the dark force changed the perspective of the scientists about the future of the universe. Dark energy was first discovered in 1998 when scientists observed that the universe was expanding at an ever-increasing rate, apparently pushed apart by an unseen pressure in all of space. Thus, some mysterious force was pushing the cosmos apart from within. This is the dark energy. The dark energy is now thought to make up some 68% of the universe's mass. The most important impact of dark energy is that the universe's expansion will never slow down. It will only accelerate.
So now, we know what actually is the Big Freeze and its relation to dark energy. Let's see how it all works, shall we?
Galaxies and planets are held together by an attractive force of gravity, while the expanding universe is repulsive force pulling them apart. If the repulsion is stronger enough to break the attraction, then they drift away. The light emitted by them would be redshifted and scattered, making the universe darker and colder, almost in a frozen state. The universe would reach its maximum stage, that is, the maximum entropy. Entropy comes from the principle that covers heat and energy, supporting the idea that eventually the universe would move from order to disorder. The universe at last reaches a stage where energy and the heat is evenly distributed. If the heat is distributed evenly, there would be no room for usable energy or heat to exist, and the universe would die from heat death, like the mechanical motions would cease. The universe would be so vast that the gases would spread and become too thin to form new stars, and time becomes an endless void in which nothing happens as there is little to no energy left in the universe. After 100 trillion years, the formation of stars ceases. White dwarfs and the black holes are the only ones that would be the remaining materials. After a few years, again these black holes evaporate due to Hawking's radiation. After this, the universe would go into the total dark.
Einstein had given us a lot of theories. Unsurprisingly, his famous theory of relativity also has a role in Big Freeze. Let's dive into it.
Our first clue to the end of universe comes from thermodynamics, the study of heat. After the development of thermodynamics in the early 1800s, heat death looked like the only possible way the universe could end. But 100 years ago, Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity suggested that the universe had a different fate, predicting that the universe as a whole must either be expanding or contracting. It could not stay the same size forever. In the universe and other isolated systems, entropy will increase until it reaches a maximum value. Entropy is basically a thermodynamic quantity representing the unavailability of systems' thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work. Entropy comes from a principle of thermodynamics that covers energy and specifically refers to the idea that everything in the universe eventually moves from order to disorder. As a result, entropy is a measurement of that shift. Once entropy reaches its maximum, theoretical physicists believe that heat in the system will be distributed evenly. This means that there would be no more room for usable energy or heat to exist, and the universe would die from heat death.
We just explored the Big Freeze in detail, from its beginning to the end. These are just theories so far. We still don't know for sure how the universe will end, but don't worry too much about this. We still have a long time ahead of us to live anyway.